Jerry Scott! I declare bankruptcy!
Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
Depression? Isn't that just a fancy word for feeling bummed out?
Dwight, you ignorant slut! Not only the years we've been at war, but from the moment, as a child, when we realized that the world could be conquered.
You're listening to Great Scott. Oh boy, man, I'm in the dangerous to go alone headspace. But welcome to Great Scott. My name is Jay Ray, and with me is my desk mate Jacob.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Man, there's a lot going on my end, man. Let me tell you. You said it, and I was just editing before we went live, and then I got dogs walking around. But we're great. We're here. We're here to talk about season 5 of The Office. It's gonna be awesome.
Will be awesome.
Yeah, we got real quick. What do they call it? It's house cleaning, right? That's the phrasing. Housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
House cleaning.
Yeah,
That's it. Not house cleaning. All right. Well, also weekends are cleaning days here, so I got all types of. Anyways, so if you are not yet a Patreon of Broken Jars, visit patreon.com/Broken Jars, and very small donations, $1 to $2. It sounds like she's tap dancing, right?
yeah, it does.
Oh boy. Okay. And you get $1. It's just kind of like a courtesy to us, and you're just saying that you kind of support what we do. $2 lets you in on our exclusive, where we have all types of cool conversations and behind the scenes chit chats and all that kind of jazz. And it's really fun. The people who've been in there have been really great so far, and it's good times.
Except that one bastard, but whatever. I'm joking. They're all cool. That's right. I'm talking about you, Cheeseless.
Cheeseless. There it is. Yeah. So how you been, man? What's been going on in your world?
Man, I spent all week in California. I flew out Monday, flew back, got home Friday morning at 2:30 a.m. Still went into work at 7. So I'm worn out. My wife's gone, so I haven't seen her in like a week, and it's bothering. It's starting to get to me. But yesterday I got Comic-Con tickets, so going to San Diego, scored a sweet Airbnb on that island, Coronado, so won't have to deal with the buses. And if you've ever done like a con with buses, you know how terrible they are.
Yep.
Because at least in San Diego, it's an hour. Like if you have to take the buses to the hotels, it's an hour. So this way we'll just be able to take the ferry and do all that kind of stuff. So, and then just the Masters just finished and it was awesome. Because I love me some golf, but
Add that to the Jacob podcast that will be launching sometime in 2019, probably, once we accumulate enough information. Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, San Diego Comic-Con should be great, I think.
So if you're going and you want to hang out, let me know, and we'll figure out a way to like meet up and maybe have like a Broken Jars thing.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, if there's anybody to meet from the network, it's definitely the brains behind the whole thing. That's you, by the way.
I don't know if I'm the brains behind the whole thing.
Yeah, you're the brains, but Director Alex is the fingers and the muscle. Yeah.
I don't know. She does a lot of brain power on her own, so
definitely the mom and pop of the old podcasting network. But yeah, I came from I was in the city today, New York City. It's funny, when I went to college, there was a debate because South Jersey kids would call Philly the city, and North Jersey kids would say New York City is the city. But ultimately, New York City is the city because New York could eat Philly and shit it out in a Philly cheesesteak. But I was at an a cappella concert.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was. I've done a lot of nerdy things in my life, Jacob. This concert was on a different level.
Okay.
Let me just say that. Yeah.
Well, you gotta try to explain this.
Well, so one of the ladies from the Pitch Perfect series was in it. Not one of the bigger names, but one of the ones who participates in the sing-songing. It was separated into two halves. The first half was like nationwide high school a cappella teams. So they came and they did a bunch, and then afterwards was international wide a cappella teams who compete and stuff, and they sang a bunch of songs, and a talented bunch of people. But I definitely didn't come in with the same passion that everybody else did. So that's how you're like, oh, this is not for me. Like, I get it. And they did make everybody stand up at the end and sing "In the Jungle, the Mighty Jungle, the Lion Sleeps Tonight." So I was a Weema Wang for a bit. Yeah, it was something. It was good. Yeah, but I was just trying to frame it. I was like, what would Andy Bernard do in this situation? He'd probably storm the stage.
Oh, yeah. He'd be throwing his tie up there.
That's right. Yeah. So I was trying to be respectful about the showboating from me. So last episode when we left off, we were saying goodbye to season 4, and we start today saying what up season 5. We've got, technically, depending on how you watch it, 4 to 3 episodes for you to talk about.
Right.
We've got weight loss, which is a 2-parter.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be talking about business ethics, and we'll be talking about the hilariously awkward baby shower.
Oh, God. The baby shower.
Man, the less Jan, the better, but she's coming again.
All right, so Weight Loss, directed by Paul Feig and written by that crazy duo Lee Eisenberg and Gene Stupinski. Stupinski? I don't know. It's one of those things.
Yeah, there's a T in there somewhere, too, like a second T.
Yeah.
Stupnitsky.
That's probably, as that looks more right, Stupnitsky.
Yeah, Gene, send us a tweet.
Yeah. How do you pronounce your last name?
Yeah. So this is the season opener. Last we saw of the Office gang was Goodbye Toby. Andy and Angela got engaged. Toby left to go to Costa Rica, being replaced by Holly Flax. And then, this is an interesting episode because it takes place over the summer.
Right. And I remember when I was watching this the first time, like, when it aired live, that I thought it was really cool they actually bridged it. They didn't just have this, like, time off. They actually did a bridge episode. I thought that was a really good idea on their part.
And aside from the moments where they say week 1, week 2, you don't really notice.
Right.
It's a pretty typical episode aside from that.
Right. And you got, so corporate's having this weight loss competition for 5. Well, I think it's 3 days and it gets to 5. Which, that's a pretty big deal. 5 vacation days is a full week, so that's. But I do have to say that, like, competitions based on weight loss is stupid. Because, every, body, it's a lot different. Like, if you're starting with a bunch of skinny people versus a lot of fat people, the fat people are going to have the better advantage because it's easier for them to lose weight, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So, like, in my opinion, it's the best way to do it is percentage lost. So, like, 2,000 pounds, you lose 50, take the percentage and not just the total number.
Yeah, that's a good point. But like you said, ultimately, it probably just shouldn't be done.
Right. Yeah, and so so Andy says he wants washboard abs. So for the first time, Angela sees him. So they haven't had sex yet, but we know at some point they do.
Yeah.
So because the duel is episode 12, so it's coming, has to be somewhere in this time frame.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what the change is. I'm trying to think. Does she? Because her Angela stopping her affair with Dwight is really a short break, right?
Yeah, it's the same episode.
So. So theoretically, they're both doing it throughout the whole time, right?
Right.
Like right through Moroccan Christmas, which is followed by the duel, I guess, right?
Right, it is.
Yeah.
So, she didn't go down to see him once, and then like Andy pissed her off with the telling her that not having Here Comes Trouble was a deal breaker. So then she like calls Dwight again, and
Yeah. Oh, doggy. Okay. So let's see what else. So a lot of people have different strategies. We do find out that Stanley has decided on his own to start losing weight.
Mhm.
And the running gag for him throughout the episode is that he is actually pretty successful in doing so. I think by the end of the summer he loses 8 pounds or something.
7 pounds.
7 pounds, yeah. While the rest of the office has a little bit of trouble, but Kelly takes probably one of the more extreme approaches. She basically stops eating entirely and tries quite a few diets. One of the more popular ones being the old maple syrup lemon cleanse.
Have you ever done any of those crazy cleanse diets or any kind of crazy diet?
No, I think as a practice, a cleanse for like a day or two, I think is a good idea to kind of like get some of that stuff out of your system. But obviously, like Kelly like has decided like this is how she was going to eat now moving forward, is to only consume the cleanse beverage, ultimately leading to her passing out, which is very funny.
It is pretty funny.
Yeah.
One thing, like, I've done some interesting diets. One where, like, I just didn't eat any solid food. Like, I would, like, make, like, smoothies and stuff. So still getting a lot of nutrition, just all liquid.
Right.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
So we have, like, Holly Flax, like, teaching yoga, which I don't know if you've ever done yoga, but that shit hurts.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been more sore after a workout than the first time I did yoga. I was in so much pain.
Yeah, not my choice of workout for sure. I'm a slow walking on a treadmill kind of guy, or intense faces on an elliptical kind of guy, or oh no, the remote controls across the living room kind of guy. Like those are my workouts. So yoga is no. But apparently, according to Steve Carell, Michael Scott, Holly's butt just won't quit. We do find that out. So there's this really fun kind of story element going on as we, it's part of what Jim sets Michael up to do in the last episode, but, it's to slowly learn more about Holly, right?
Right.
Don't jump in. Don't start kissing her. Don't tell her you love her. But, it's like the slow burn friendship stuff. So Michael has these funny little moments where he pulls Jim aside, like in the bathroom or whatever, and like needs to like guy talk about it.
Right.
Jim does a pretty good job of trying to like hose him down, but Michael's horniness is always going to prevail.
But did you see her butt? In this episode, we learned that Pam weighs 126 pounds. So
yes, yeah.
I don't know if that's an accurate weight. Like, I don't know if that was an actual scale they were using or if it was just like a number. But
yeah, and I not knowing what my own weight should be, I don't know what are good weights for women. I don't know how tall she is. I mean, I guess if I knew how tall Janet Fisher was, we can figure out what her BMI would be.
Even though BMI is terrible, but we'll look it up. Why not?
So this is the creepy celebrity stalking element of Great Scott. Don't have it very often, but we whipped out some of these sleuthing techniques when we were trying to figure out who Andy's girlfriend was during product recall, and now we're trying to figure out the ideal weight for Jenna Fisher. Definitely not objectifying her at all. No one should complain about what's happening.
Right. Let's see. She's 5'6", so she's fairly tall for a girl.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Well, just type in 5'6" and ideal weight. I'm seeing 118 to 154.
Yeah, seems about right.
So she's right on track there.
Yep. So there you go.
No reason to be ashamed about that, Bam.
Nope, not at all. Yeah, even according to BMI, she's in the optimal range. So
We're doing great.
let's see. Yeah, I'm not.
Mm.
But it's like the amount of weight I would have to lose to be in the option. This is one reason why BMI is just crap. Like I'd have to lose because I'm not a big guy. You can
Right.
see. I'd have to lose 40 pounds to be on the high end of optimal.
There you go.
That'd be a stick figure.
Based on my BMI, I am obese. So that's pretty great. It's always nice to have the internet say you're fat.
Yeah, it's bad though. Like, yeah, BMI is terrible. Like every professional athlete is like way overweight, even if they're jacked. Like you can't tell me they're not in good shape, but according to just their because it doesn't take any of that into account because muscle's so much heavier than fat and all that other stuff.
Right. So I have a question for you, sir. Why is the warehouse not part of it? The contest here.
It must be a corporate thing, like corporate only, I guess, or office workers. Since the warehouse guys are exercising anyway, they're up and moving and doing
Right.
stuff. So maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess because obviously Derek. So, what the crew ends up doing is they're standing on a scale in the warehouse that they probably use to weigh the pallets and stuff when they're calculating shipping costs. So Daryl's there helping, but obviously the warehouse crew is not part of it. So, just thought it was interesting that they were cut out. That's probably more of a class issue, right?
Right, and like this is the season where the guy who plays Daryl just gets super big.
Yeah, Craig Robbins, and does go through some stuff. I mean, not to do more celebrity gossip, but there was a stretch where he was busted with like meth. So I think his success on The Office caused him to go a little bit cray-cray for a bit. Not that meth is a really classy drug. You feel like it'd be crack, Come on, Craig.
Yeah,
You're better than that. You could do some crack. Oh boy, drug addiction's not funny. Sorry.
it is a little funny.
All right, so what else we got? So that's that. Oh, so there's another great bit with Kelly too, where we find out that Creed actually, supposedly sells her a tapeworm.
I wish I knew what it was. Like, are you surprised that like?
Yeah, part of me wonders if it was just like, I don't know, like a piece of plastic or something, just like something long and. You move it around a lot, or you put it in a jar, and Kelly don't know any better, so she just swallows it. Or maybe it was just a regular worm. Maybe it was just like a regular old earthworm.
That would have been hilarious.
But she does eat it, hoping that it'll help her lose weight. Holly is already a pretty thin lady. Similarly, I don't think Angela could lose a lot of weight.
The doctors want her to gain weight.
Right. So there you go. So the odds are definitely stacked up against the Office staff.
Jim isn't, he's not a big dude.
No.
Michael isn't.
He does. What's that number that Jim promises? To lose 60 pounds or
60
something?
pounds, yeah. He would be dead.
Yeah,
no more Jim. We got at some point Pam is going off to art school.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to sneak out. And Michael sees them and runs downstairs and falls down the stairs, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
There's a couple spots in this stretch of episodes where the physical comedy is really good. That's something I think I've talked about before, but The Office is a bit underrated for that. It's got a lot of just really good physical comedy.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, like I wrote a poem for you, but I left it upstairs. The last word is seagulls. But Jim kisses her goodbye. Like, hey, be safe, call me. And Michael tries to kiss Pam. It's really bizarre. I didn't really understand it, especially when he's got this Holly crush.
Yeah, well, I figured it was more of like a paternal thing. Like he's not thinking about the Jim Pam relationship as a sexual thing in this particular instance, you know. So I think he's like kind of doing like this European thing. Maybe that's all I could like come to rationalize it. That odd kind of move there. You know, heat of the moment. He's running out of breath. He forgot his poem, Seagulls.
That he took from a lot of other.
Yeah. Yeah, so she ends up going to the city. So we do see her college life and such. And I mean, it's a real college. She's got a dorm. I'm trying not to confuse what I've watched, but do we find out that she's an RA in these episodes?
Yeah,
no? We do. Right?
Is it this?
Maybe not. Right? Maybe it's not till.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe it's when Jim goes to see her that we learn she's an RA. I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, she is an RA now.
Yeah, she is an RA.
So she's really living like the actual proper college kind of deal. As opposed to like I think of a lot of other like adult programs where people are really just kind of, you know, like they go and they leave and it's more of a commuting situation. But
right.
I mean, she's in the midst of it, so she has crazy kids and their drama.
Yeah, we get a whole bit about that in what baby shower.
Yeah, yeah.
Sarah Kaya Combsen.
Who's Sarah Kaya Combsen?
So yeah, it's pretty good, and then we have this whole bit that sort of it started in Goodbye Toby, but Dwight told Holly that Kevin's slow.
Yes,
he's got a mental handicap. And Angela just starts ripping into Kevin about it. It's like, you did this. It's like a GD monkey could do this, you know. And then Holly like gets in there. It's like, no, you can't say that to him like that.
Yeah, it's it gets awkward, and then it's revealed that she's like, he's not an idiot. He is mentally challenged or something like that.
Kevin's just like, great Kevin line. He's like he says something. He's like, wait, what? You think I'm retarded?
Yeah.
Like perfectly delivered.
Yeah, it's a good line from Kevin for sure. And, you know, and there's really no fallout for Holly with that.
No.
I mean, not that there needs to be anything like that, but she says it. It's kind of awkward for a hot minute.
Right, and he's like, but Dwight, and everyone, and just like, that's really offensive. And sort of not really a B story, but like another thing that's going on is Andy's trying to find somewhere to have this wedding. You know, so he's like, he makes all these non-refundable deposits for like hot air balloons, which there's no way in hell I would do that. I got to think. I don't know. I got to think about heights, so I don't know if I could do a hot air balloon. Was a place in Maine, Scranton Wilkes-Barre Ballroom, which is apparently haunted, and there was another one. I don't remember what it was. Epcot, yeah.
Center, yeah. So, of these, what would you do?
Well, I've actually seen one of the places where they do wedding ceremonies at Disney, and it's really pretty. And I do love Disney World. It's pretty cool. So
scuba diving was one, I think.
Was there a scuba?
Right? I think scuba diving was one.
So, yeah, so that happens. And, like, how much money did he spend on this wedding?
Yeah, Andy never has problems with money, and I just kind of feel like his parents are still continuing to help bankroll his odd behaviors.
Right.
Which is weird. He's an old dude. I mean, he's definitely late 30s, early 40s. But yeah, you're right. He dropped mad dough on this thing. And ultimately we find out, you know, as the story progresses and him and Angela have their falling out, that Andy actually has to go on a lot of these honeymoons because he couldn't get his deposit back.
How many honeymoons? Like, how many, like, you got to expect he spent like $20,000-$30,000.
Yeah, I mean, he paid college tuition to marry this crazy chick.
And one thing, there is a good scene with him where he's just like, I'll marry you wherever, and it's super sweet, and like he actually does love her, which
Right.
is sad because it's Angela.
There was I was trying to tell my girlfriend, I was like, listen, you'll get it. Angela is a cutie patootie. Maybe not early on, and maybe she's too mean. There's going to be a moment where it's all going to click, and I don't know where it happened for her, but my girlfriend was like, yes, I see it now. So I can see, so there's some benefits to the nastiness that is Angela. Because she's a cute little pocket-size, adorable wife who may cheat on you, or you could stick her in your pocket. It sounds like a nice day. Pull her out at the American Doll store.
She's got this great talking head. Is like, I've got a nice pillow. I generally read a chapter 2 of a book, and it's lights out by 8:30. That's how I sleep at night.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, honestly, it took me like 2 watches of that episode to realize the joke, but it's a good moment.
It's one of my favorites right there.
Another highlight of the episode is they're still trying to lose weight, and Dwight's a very competitive fellow.
Right.
So he convinces. Well, so Phyllis is kind of a person who's at odds with what's happening, not on purpose, but she's one of the bigger people in the office, and eventually there's a cake that's mentioned, and she feels that they've done some good jobs and they've lost some weight, so they deserve a cake for Stanley's birthday, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. Which is also probably a continuity error. I didn't look up when his birthday was previously stated, but I'm sure it has been or will be stated as a different day moving forward. But regardless, so they end up getting some like fruit salad thing, and there's a secret cake in the warehouse, which is actually Dwight's creepy bang room. Mm-hmm.
That's why I tried. Like it actually didn't occur to me. Like that's why he was trying to get them out of there, is so he could bone with Angela.
He's like, they should not be in there.
So do you think like he was trying to like? Do you think Angela maybe had been like, hey, yeah, we should do this, and then like he went down there to find them? Do you think that's how they got caught? Because they don't say why they're down. Like they don't say why Dwight's down there.
That's a good point, but Angela's in that room though. Like she did walk in to consume the cake, so I feel like I don't know, maybe Dwight's just snooping around too. It does seem like him to like maybe go on patrol or something,
It's true, yeah. Yes, and I just saw one of the notes. This is the episode where we find out that Pam is an RA because Jim goes to New York and then ditches the camera. It's like, hey, look, there's
He's like, oh, have you seen Pam's new art? Yeah. And pulls the old switcherooski.
Yep.
So then later on, Dwight comes up to Phyllis and it's like, hey, there's like a fire sale going on. I'll give you some of the commission or whatever. They go 60-40 Dwight. And what ends up happening is Dwight drives Phyllis to a remote area of somewhere in the bad part of town, keeps her cell phone and her purse, and drives off. It's like a 5-mile hike or something like that, I think.
Quite a bit, yeah. 5 miles.
Yeah. So Phyllis is livid and sweaty and gross, and Dwight tries to turn it into a positive. He's all like, and you burned over 1,000 calories, and she calls David Wallace to rat out Dwight and kind of the misdeeds that are being done by this contest. But I guess the contest is still going on.
Right.
It's just reiterated that you should not be fat shaming people while the contest
or
goes
using
on.
extreme methods.
That's right.
This is also the episode where Michael grows his goatee.
Yeah.
Because apparently, to be like Ryan's, I guess. Well, not
Well,
I
it's funny,
guess,
'cause
for
I guess
sure.
Ryan asked Michael to help him move, right? Because that's when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So is that Ryan just being desperate because he has no more friends after his fraud thing? Or, is there really a friendship somewhere down there and he's just too ashamed to admit it?
Oh, man, that's tough. I mean, to me, it's probably he knew Michael would say yes, so he did it.
Right.
You know, so that's kind of how I feel about it, because Ryan's a douchebag. He's just a douchebag.
He's a whiz kid, Jacob. How dare you?
Hey, those things are not mutually exclusive.
That's a fair point. Yeah, so Michael gets the goatee. It's a terrible look for him. It looks weird too. I think what is happening is like he definitely has like prosthetics going on, not prosthetics, but like the fake hair.
Right.
Because his is so dark and like perfect. It's very Tony Stark. And Ryan's looks a little bit more natural.
Yeah, we also learned that Michael keeps some condoms in his wallet.
Yeah.
And he gives one to Jim because he doesn't want Jim to have a surprise pregnancy like he did.
That's right.
Like,
Which is
I guess
definitely
you,
how that happened.
I guess you got to give him like credit for trying. I don't know, maybe.
Trying what?
Like trying to like be with Jan and the baby and stuff.
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, at least like 3 episodes, like there's an attempt.
Right.
Presumably he's gone to Lamaze classes based on...
Well, yeah, I was kind of wondering that. It was actually something for the actual baby shower episode, but like you assume that he's been doing all that stuff with her, right?
Yeah, because he said he would, or at least he said he'd... I mean, we know we heard him ask about it. Yeah, but I don't know, because I also feel like I don't know. Because, again, in the baby shower episode, we do find out that the baby's been born already. So I don't know. I feel like he would have noticed, so maybe he became less involved moving forward.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. That's something I wish there was more, I don't know, explaining, yeah.
Another side story that's going on is Holly. So we see Jan again for the first time in a while after Toby. Goodbye, Toby. And, Holly finds out that this is an old flame of Michael's. So she's like, okay, well, maybe Oscar knows this cute yoga teacher. I can get his digits. Maybe that could be a thing. After some very awkward I'm a lesbian jokes.
I felt sorry for her. I really
it's
did.
weird too because we know Oscar isn't really a jokey fellow.
Right, but he gets more jokey as this goes on, right? Because we see him, and granted they get kind of drunk, but we see him lighten up in Business Trip and a couple other things where like he starts to get funnier. You see it in Pool Party in season 8, so he's starting to loosen up a little bit.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a true point. Jesus, I just lost my train of thought, Jacob.
Oh no. So anyway, so we got that's about the it for the first part of this episode. So when we come back into the second episode, Ryan comes back like a douchebag. He like walks in, and he's like, how's my favorite branch doing? And I'm like, oh, Ryan, you're a douche.
Yeah.
Kevin turns his name from fire guy to fired guy, and then
That's
to
right.
hired guy.
Which is just as amazing, really. And then we find out Ryan is keeping a little diary of people he feels has wronged him, and Kevin gets added to the list during the immediately following Talking Head.
Right. And then he tries to... I don't know if he actually tries to be nice to Jim, or if it's just like, whatever. But
I think it's not real. Yeah.
It's like, after I give it back to the community, he's like, oh, you mean your court-ordered community service?
Yeah.
Like, Jim's having none of it. He's like, nope, not doing it.
Yeah, it's true. And honestly, their friendship never reconciles after that either, right? Like, moving forward, they don't really ever get, like, paired up or have any, like, little witty repartee outside of, like... It's as antagonistic as Dwight and Jim is usually, right?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say it's as antagonistic. They just, they don't really do much together.
Yeah. Well, and he also gets moved out of that space, right? He ends up sitting in a closet for a hot minute and all that kind of jazz. So,
well, he moves back to the annex for a while, and then,
I guess first, presumably, Michael Scott Paper Company happens this season, right?
Right. Then he does that, And then, right, and then Jim moves him to the closet when Jim's in charge. And so he punishes him by moving him to the closet. That was right at the end. Like,
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That's next season, like right for I think, is it murder? No, maybe. I'm trying to remember. Like it's a season with oh fuck. Maybe it's Scott's Tots.
Well, because he leaves.
No, it's
to go to
shareholder
Thailand.
meeting. That's when
Right.
that's when he does it. I just couldn't remember.
Okay, I got you.
I'm pretty sure that's it anyway. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm all over the place.
Yeah. So the second half. I mean, so the second half is when the Phyllis thing happens, I believe. Actually.
Probably yes.
I mean, essentially, we find out that they lose, right? It's like the morning of or something like that. They weighed themselves. They're not going to make it. But, Michael's like feeling good. He's like, well, we have till the end of the day. Maybe we could do it. I mean, it's a lot, right? It was like 8 pounds?
8 pounds with that many people isn't that hard. If you're willing to push it.
Well, I think, too, they were going about it the wrong way. So when we were watching this episode, my girlfriend and I was like, honestly, you get some poops going, right? Maybe the sweating helps. And then you weigh yourselves naked post-poop. I feel like that's probably the easiest way to do it. Because 8 pounds is water weight between a dozen people, you know?
Right, yeah. Human body, 60% water, so... I mean, I've lost a half a pound during a workout.
Yeah. And the sweat lodge isn't a bad idea either with Andy and the plastic bags and stuff.
Man, if everyone did it, I think they probably would have made it.
Right. This is the moment as well, though, when Angela kind of switches back and it's like, I'm not dealing with the trebles coming over to sing at my wedding.
And we also have this very... self-realization thing for Andy where he's like, I haven't had a hard life.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And he's just like, And he doesn't lose contests. He either wins them or quits them because they are unfair.
That's right. Which is something I wish I could do.
Don't we all?
One day.
And then, so after everything, Michael comes in with his fat suit doing a presentation and gets Kelly up on the chair, just like getting everyone to like say what they like about her.
Right.
And Phyllis is like, I wonder what people would like about me. Probably my jugs.
Yeah, and she says it so seriously.
So it's something I really hadn't caught, but you see Pam in class with the dude who eventually like tries to get her to stay.
That's right.
And for some reason, the professor is talking about mold. I'm like, why are you talking about mold? Is this like about old paintings? Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, part of me wondered too, because she's living there. I mean, if I recall, you have to be a full-time student to live on campus. Generally, anyways. So I'm wondering if she's also taking some general elective type classes.
But Pratt's not like a college, is it? I thought it was like an actual design school.
Yeah, it's like an institute, the Pratt Institute.
Right. So I wouldn't think they would need or have like history and stuff, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be, I guess, another misstep from the writers. Just be like, well, let's have them talk about something boring. What's boring? So it's like, mold! And they're like, nailed it.
We see this great thing.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah.
Oh, I just lost my train of thought too. One of the great Michael line. So Michael says something in the meeting about, it's society. And Jim says, you always say it's society's fault. Well, maybe it's you. Well, if it's me, then society made me this way.
Yeah, which is like
and Jim has the best Jim face where it's just like, Yeah, that's pretty good logic, actually.
He's like, you are not wrong, sir. So Pam and Jim are talking on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a pretty normal conversation. But I don't. There's nothing in it that makes me feel as to what might have made Jim want to propose. But it's just kind of an idle conversation, and Dwight's being nosy, and he's doing his Dwight thing, and they switch to I am, which is also a phrase I had not heard in a really long time. Like you text, you send someone a message, but everything's instant message. So to specifically call out I am is weird.
Right.
Just a sign of the times, I suppose. But they decide to meet halfway. Exit 17. I gotta say, as a New Jerseyan who would be halfway between New York City and Pennsylvania, no idea what exit 17 is. Pam makes it Claire would be closer. The only thing I could think of with exit numbers that low might be the Turnpike. But I think the Turnpike goes up to 17. Or 16, rather, not 17. So I don't know what the hell number she's saying. And specifically, Montclair is exit 15, I think, off the Turnpike.
They were close.
Just saying, didn't add up. And I think most people wouldn't care, but I literally live 5 miles from Montclair, and I'm like, wait, what is she talking about? Anyway, so they decided to meet midway through. Mm-hmm. Ends up being at this weird ratty gas station in the middle of the rain, right off a highway. Fun fact on how that's shot, they say it in the director's commentary, but I mean, they basically put up a store facade on the same lot that they shoot like the exteriors for The Office or something like that. Like they were literally like 100 feet away from where they normally shoot.
Makes sense.
And they just had a loop in front of the store facade. So inside, I don't even think you could go in the store. It's like North Korea status where they just have pictures of food that look nice from far away. And then they just have like 10 cars just driving in a loop. And that caused the traffic. And they got the rain machine going or whatever.
Nice.
And also, too, for whatever reason, I mean, it's a quick stop type place, you know? You go in, you pick up a coffee or some smokes, and you get out. There's like no sitting area.
Right.
So right? It's weird. I don't understand the reason for meeting at that particular gas station.
Well, maybe there's
Subway.
Maybe there was like a, I don't know, a restaurant we didn't see.
Maybe. But, and then specifically, too, instead of meeting inside like they normally would, they literally met in between 2 gas pumps.
Yep.
Pam's just standing there. Doesn't make any sense. But very nice shot. Jim drops to his knee, drops the question. And it's also weird. I mean, technically, if we treat this as one episode with part 1, it's a season opener, and they just they get engaged right there. It's a fine moment. I think no moment will ever top Jim coming back from the city to ask Pam to go out to dinner.
Because, you know, I mean, at that point, this is pretty much an inevitability, right? Like, we all knew as soon as they actually got together, they were going to stay together.
Right.
But it was nice, and everyone was very excited. I remember I was very excited to see it. Like, it was very, very exciting.
At the time, you're right. It was very cool. But yeah, definitely in retrospect, it's like, what a weird throwaway moment. And they don't really talk about it. I mean, we'll get to the beginning of Business Ethics where it's like mentioned again. But yeah, just a weird moment. Anyway, so they get engaged. Whoop-de-doo.
Their final weight was 2,175 pounds. They lost, what, like 140 pounds?
Total? Yeah.
Total, which is pretty good, actually.
Yeah, not bad.
Let's see. They started at 223.36 and got down to 21.75.
Okay.
So not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
At the very end of this episode, we find out that Tobes got hurt ziplining in Costa Rica. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And a little sad.
Yeah. One more thing before we hop off, though, is that this episode does start this funny little trend. It only happens for 2 episodes, but of Michael destroying things of Holly's. right?
Right.
So the yoga instructor doesn't work out. Michael offers to buy the Counting Crow tickets that Holly has purchased, presumably, like a normal person would imagine, to go to the concert with her, right? Which I also thought was kind of interesting, considering how excited Holly is to start dating Michael. Like, being an HR person, you feel like you kind of stay away from that, but regardless, whatever. Buys the tickets. Holly's excited, rips him up in front of her, drops him on the ground, says, "I'll have to pay you back tomorrow. I have a $60 limit on my card." Next episode, they end up going to lunch, and we'll talk about that conversation, but the leftovers end up getting thrown out.
Well, he also throws away her salad.
To invite her. He's like, "Look, your food is no good here." Throws that out. Presumably she purchased it on her own.
Right. And then he makes her buy dinner or buy lunch.
Makes them split, yeah, because he's like, lunch is on Dunder Mifflin. Actually, wait, my company card got taken away. We'll split it. And then later on, I think it's when she comes back. This is a couple seasons from now, but we see Woody, like a little toy Woody that's given to her by her boyfriend, and he throws that in the garbage also. So he just likes throwing her shit away.
Yeah, I guess I never really caught the trend of that happening, but it does happen quite a bit.
Yeah. But that's weight loss. That's we're back. We're in season 5.
Yep. And we find out Hobie got hurt in Costa Rica.
Yep.
Which I had gone ziplining in Costa Rica like a month before this episode aired, so it was kind of weird.
You probably felt great, yeah.
I'm like, oh, right, I didn't die, but I could also see how someone could break their neck ziplining in Costa Rica. It's not like places here.
No.
Like, it's not near, like, they don't have the safety standards that we do. Like, some of the platforms are made of just chicken wire. They're like 400 feet in the air, just chicken wire.
They know how to do it over there, man. Waste and whatnot.
So, what are you going to give these episodes?
I think it's fine. Combine them together, it's fine. There's nothing that is particularly like hilarious. Nothing particularly. I mean, I know there's the engagement, but like I said, it's done in such a lackluster way. It doesn't do much for me, so I'm just going to give this a straight 3 out of 5 tapeworms.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty much how I felt about it. It's a good episode. Yeah, it's just kind of there. It gets us into the season, gets it rolling. So I gave it also a 3 out of 5 exploding cans of Coke. Of soda.
There you go.
Whatever Jim calls it. So you Yankees calling it weird things. So is it,
How dare you?
pop or is it so? Like, what's your thing? Like,
well, so I was raised both in the East and West Coast, but West Coast doesn't have the same North and South things that the East Coast does, I guess because of colonial times. But across the country, I call it soda. I did have a friend when I worked at a deli back in high school who was from Iowa, and he called it pop. And my mom is from Maine, and she's a weirdo, and she says soda. So those are the phrasings that I've run into.
So being from Texas, I refer to everything. Everything is a Coke. So it's
I see. You've Q-tipped it.
Yeah. What kind of Coke would you like? I'll take a Diet Mountain Dew or whatever.
Right. I see. You're like, oh, look at all the Band-Aids we have, as opposed to adhesive.
Right. Or like
right.
Kleenex.
Brand
like things are often brand named down there. Like,
so you'll get a ginger ale Coke, and you'll get a Sprite Coke, and you'll get a Mountain Dew Coke.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's weird. Don't like it. Add it to that Jacob podcast, please.
I hope someone out there is like cataloging every time you say that. So we have a list.
I hope there's a wiki that we just haven't become aware of yet that's just up there. It's like jacob.wikia.com.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
All right, so we get into Business Ethics, directed by Jeffrey Blitz and written by Ryan Coe. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce that last name. So we opened up with Jim talking to Pam, and she's like, I'm really upset with all these people. because no one congratulated me on my on our engagement. So she's like, oh, So he does. He's like, I don't want to just deal with it, and so he's like, fine, I'll do it. And just starts talking to her, or talking to the office, and it's all like, everyone thinks they're already engaged, and Dwight points out that she's not a virgin, which I'm sure Jim knows at this point.
That's right.
and so she's like, wow, this is kind of bad. And then Michael walks in again for another great bit of physical comedy where she's like, Michael walks in and she hears him. She's like, oh, nothing. And the creek comes out like, the tall guy got engaged. It just tackles Jim. And I just love Pam. She says, it's like, sorry, on the other end of the line.
Yeah. And there's another, like, two little funny moments there also. So, like, she says, hi, Michael. And Michael waves.
Right.
Doesn't say anything, waves. Obviously, phone call. Right. And then when she says, when Creed says the thing about engaged, he goes, to be married? As if there's, like, another phrasing of engagement. But, yeah, no, really great. I mean, Jim, like, straight goes dead-faced. There's no worry in it. He just, like, does the Jim face all the way down. Yeah, and Pam's timing is perfect. I know the way they've shot these previously too is that the person on the phone is actually like around,
right?
Because there's a great blooper where Michael's listening to Jan's message, I guess I missed you,
right? Mm-hmm.
So some of the bloopers is he's like, let's just listen to the beginning, and he hits it. He goes, I guess I missed you, and then he fake hits the button again. So what's her name? Melina Harding or something? Right. She's just off camera somewhere, and she goes, I guess I missed you. I guess I missed you. I guess I missed you. And then she starts cracking up or whatever. So presumably, Pam's over there, and then you got the director, Mr. Jeffrey Blitz here, and he's all like, and sorry, like perfect timing. Really, really good stuff. According to Wikipedia, Business Ethics was viewed by 8.99 million people.
Pretty good.
Yeah, when it first aired. So there you go. Yeah, so we got that engagement. Episode starts, and we find out that Holly is tasked to have given the office a questionnaire and to discuss business ethics at Dunder Mifflin. Her and Michael kind of walk into the conference room doing Olivia Newton. Is it Olivia Newton-John, or is it just Olivia Newton? And I'm adding John because of Elton John.
I'm not sure, but the song they're like dancing to is like
Physical.
It's so dirty.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I'd actually really heard it, but I was somewhere. I think I was in the airport and I heard it playing, so I started listening to it. I'm like, holy crap, this thing is like really dirty.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's the part of the humor too, for it being like the ethics song, right?
Right.
It's like inappropriate for work for sure.
Song is all about just wanting to, have all the sexy times.
That's right. I get it. So they do their dance. It's weird, but Holly's like a big nerd, as we've learned already.
Right. And we learned that the reason they're having this ethics seminar is because Ryan's back. So he gets all, uppity about it. He's like, yeah, when I was in New York, I slept with this girl who looked just like this girl from Survivor.
Yeah.
And then, like, for whatever reason, Michael just starts clapping for him.
Yeah. He's all like, good job, Ryan. Yeah. Yeah, I think they're doing it not because he's back. I think it's just they were just going to do it, and coincidentally, he happens to have been rehired as a temp.
Maybe
for the same company, yeah. But so it's awkward. They do that, and then Holly basically is just reading from her manual various scenarios and trying to figure out what people's thoughts are on it.
So would you have been a totally agree or very strongly agree?
Right. She says, ideally, we would want you to totally agree. And those questions are just such BS, right? Because they're always like such, infinitesimal little degrees, right? Totally agree, strongly agree, mildly agree, then it's disagree. But it's just three varying degrees of like, yeah, that's good. But then Oscar goes, no, this is just like, anti-theft rules. Like, this isn't really ethics. And Michael tries to save the meeting by saying, "Holly, you're losing them," or whatever. So they jump into this kind of, according to Michael, like a punishment-free zone of admissions, right?
Right.
So they talk about all the different things that everybody's done in the office that may have been unethical.
So we got Oscar with the long lunch, which
Yeah.
I don't know who doesn't take long lunches.
Yeah, I've been watching the original Power Rangers on Netflix now that I could download it, and my 30-minute lunches take about 40 minutes because each episode's 20 minutes long. So
And then let's see, Kelly is downloading pirated music to her work computer,
Yeah.
which is bad on so many levels.
yeah.
You know,
She's
'cause-
probably using Kazaa or LimeWire.
yeah, with all those like crazy ass viruses and stuff.
That's right.
Angela reported Oscar the INS. He's clean, but she's glad she did it.
Michael has admitted that when he discovered YouTube, he didn't work for 5 days.
Cookie Monster sings Chocolate Rain.
Yeah. And lastly, Meredith has a big reveal.
Yeah, it's the crux of the episode. She's boning the supplier for
Hammer.
of Hammer Mill, yes, Bruce.
Bruce.
Right. So apparently he's well known, at least on some level. And so she's sleeping with him for a discount and paper and Outback Outback Steakhouse gift cards.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's kind of like the big reveal. Michael just kind of laughs it off. Really, no one in the office feels much about it, but Holly obviously feels like it's an egregious breach of.
Well, I mean, it is.
Code.
I mean, you can't do that.
Well, so that was. I was just watching this episode earlier, and it was asked to me, like, so later on, the goal of it is to be swept under the rug or whatever, and it was proposed to me, like, is that something that would really happen? And I said, well, we know moving forward that Dunder Mifflin no longer stays open as a company, right?
Right.
So shoddy ethics are not something. It's something that you would expect at a company that is going to be gone by, in 2 years.
Right. Well, it's something that we just kind of expect out of Dunder Mifflin. This is not like when they finally sweep it under the rug. It's a completely, it's just what we expect, right? I mean, we're not surprised this happens. They are a very terrible company.
Yeah. Bad weight loss initiatives. You have higher ups banging regional managers, stifling their raises, all types of nonsense.
Yeah, and then there's just all sorts of bad ethics stuff.
Yeah. So, right. So Holly thinks it's terrible. Wants to bring Meredith in to have a conversation about what can be done. How far does this go, and what are the repercussions of her behavior. B storyline is Dwight says he has never wasted company time.
Which we already know isn't true. We've seen him playing Second Life. He ran his bed and breakfast from his desk. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff in there. So I don't know if it was just him being like uppity about it or like trying to like puff out his chest or whatnot. But
Yeah.
like, this is very obviously not true. Why are you doing this? And then Jim starts timing.
Yeah, which is great. Leading to one of my favorite moments, when Jim is talking to Andy about last night's episode of Battlestar Galactica.
It's got
And it's just like
Wookiees,
totally wrong about the whole thing, yeah.
and
It's like, it's
Klingons.
basically a shot-for-shot remake, yeah.
Dumbledore, Calrissian.
Yeah,
I love how Andy's just like, I don't think that's right.
yeah. Yeah, and then so Dwight's like chewing on his paper and stuff to try to stifle his reaction to Jim's terrible reciting of the lore of Battlestar.
And we learned that like Dwight can sneeze with his eyes open, which I didn't know was possible.
Yeah. Well, and also we know that Dwight has problems peeing in cars, but apparently he is not new to peeing in carbonated beverage reciprocals, right? So he peed in a can, cut his penis on the lid, totally fine. But we do find out that he can pee in a 2-liter bottle of soda underneath his desk with no problems
While working.
while working. And of course, while Jim's timing all that, he has done nothing himself.
Being that vigilant is exhausting. I'll
That's
probably have to
right.
go home early. So we get back to the A storyline. We get the deets about everything, and Michael basically is trying to get Holly to leave it alone, right?
Right.
And so as we were talking about earlier, he goes like, "Your food's no good here." Throws her stuff in the trash. She looks pissed, like hella pissed.
Right.
They go to this seafood restaurant that is Michael likes to call it business romantic.
Uh-huh.
I would really like to see a business romantic restaurant.
Yeah, I don't need to see that, but I imagine they exist. And the fact that Michael has found it and has used it as his base of operations to start wooing Holly in this really awkward situation of prostitution in the workplace.
Is this the same place he takes Aaron for Secretary's Day? I mean,
I don't
maybe
know.
it kind of looked the same, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Might be, but obviously platonic in that case.
Right,
There's
right.
no intentions of boinking her.
We learned that Holly is from Des Moines, which
Yep.
makes me hate her a little bit because I hate the state of Iowa.
There you go. That's great.
We're gonna
We
get
are
some-
very accepting on the Broken Charts Network.
I don't-
Yeah.
Yeah. we get a
Yes,
great
no,
Michaelism, contemplative.
Yeah. Michael throws out her leftovers. They obviously have a bad lunch. They can't really see eye to eye out of the whole thing.
Right?
Holly's not wrong in what she's saying, right?
No, she's not wrong. An interesting thing is like Michael has 2 lobsters,
Yes.
and he proposes that they just basically get her a chastity belt and say no sex for 6 months.
Yeah, he's like something with underpants and spikes or something. It's like that's how
And
he's
Holly
trying to
just has
explain
this
it.
look on her face like, what's going on?
Yeah. Ultimately, this leads to a phone call with Kendall, the corporate HR representative.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the head of HR, really.
Right. I would assume so, yes.
Yeah, so it's funny because we find out earlier at the end of season 3 when Jim's doing his interview or whatever, David Walsh is like, "You love everybody here, well, except for our HR guy Kendall. He's kind of terrible or whatever."
Right.
And we find out hating the HR rep is kind of a running thing at Dunder Mifflin also. But this is that Kendall, and sounds, and basically Kendall gives Holly the business, being like, well, this is good for the company. Don't rock the boat. And really, I just asked you to do a simple thing, and if you can't do that thing, and it's really sad and awkward. And Holly obviously is just being like this really positive force, wanting good things to
Right.
happen. And Kendall is just being this corrupt jerkwad, And Michael has this great talking head where he's all like, "Well, how do you tell someone you care about? I told you so," or whatever.
Yeah.
He's like, with a joke.
With a rose, or you just let it go because you know it's going to make things worse.
He's like, probably with the joke. And then Holly ends up doing the seminar. Michael, is shouting at everybody to get in there.
Right. Yeah,
Mer-
he comes
Meredith's
up
like,
big.
"Let's have a job." Yeah.
And then we see the bounty of Meredith hooking up with, she like brings all this food from Outback.
Yeah, and she has like steak sauce in her car or whatever like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine anybody in my office being as gross as Meredith in this context of behavior, but
Yeah,
I
because
feel like if she fed me lunch, I'd probably be okay with it.
she, because maybe it's a girl thing, but when she got those Outback gift cards, she just felt good about herself.
That's right. That's it. That's all it is.
And she wouldn't have done it because Holly was just trying to like, hey, is this just a personal thing? Because if it's if it's personal and we're not getting a discount because of it, it's a bit better, you know? So, but
Right.
she's like, no fruit in those looms.
Yeah.
And Michael's just like, please God, stop. Please God, we're trying to help you.
Let me see if there's anything worth. Right, as you said, Michael orders 2 lobsters. Michael has a glass of wine when he's eating. And Holly ends up eating the salad, which is basically what she was going to eat before Michael threw it out.
Right.
Meredith claims. And we find out that Meredith was banging Bruce for 6 years, which is like nuts. Yet Hammermill was exclusive to Stables until 2006, according to the events of the convention.
Right.
Right. So some retcon continuity, fun for everybody out there keeping track.
That's
All right.
true.
So,
Yeah.
J-Man, what would you give this episode?
It's okay. It's fine. Again, just kind of fine.
Yeah.
It's got some funny parts in it. So I gave this a 3 out of 3 out of 5, or 3.3 out of 5 business romantics.
Yeah, I'm following you there, man. I gave it a 3 out of 5 physicals. Just fine episode.
It's fine.
No,
It's fine.
I mean, what happens with I think episodes like this that are like just fine is that you forget the jokes are part of that episode.
Right.
You kind of extrapolate it out and you can attach it to like another better episode that's like later on. But it's fine, you know. This only furthers my opinion that after season 3, everything continues to go downhill.
Well, they change it up a lot in season 5. There's definitely a change in how, like, the writers and the directors. There's lots of new guys, that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. The Office definitely starts to take like its third kind of tonal shift, because you got season 1, which is very British. 2 and 3 and 4 are kind of along the same track, and then 5 starts to change to like this new.
When did Parks and Rec start?
I think what is this, 2008? I want to say 10, but I could be full of crap. Let's see, Parks and
2009.
2009. So next year, the following year after this season. Starting season 6.
Because I know at this season, a lot of the writers shifted to Parks and Rec. So that's one reason why we got a lot of new writers.
Well, the fellow who plays Mose is the head writer or the showrunner for Parks and Rec.
Right.
His name is escaping me now, but we've said it like 1,000 times before. Anyways, so last up, we got Baby Shower.
Oh, Baby Shower.
This is written by Aaron Shore, directed by Greg Daniels, OG Greg Daniels.
OG.
And it starts off with Michael and Dwight doing some role playing about the birthing process.
With a watermelon.
So Dwight's walking around with a watermelon kind of strapped to his stomach in an apron. Michael is just trying to be as casual as possible, but then Dwight goes into labor.
Right.
I'm screaming.
The pain.
I think that's usually how it goes.
And then, like, Andy's like, or Michael's like, Andy, do you want to have my baby? He's like, yes. And Dwight's like, no.
Yeah. And he's all like, all right, take a Sharpie, make a mark that only you will recognize.
Right.
To stop any baby snatchers.
And I just love how, like, there's a scene where everyone's just, like, watching this unfold.
Yeah, like obviously everybody has to stop work because what's happening is insane. The watermelon is born. Michael grabs it and drops it promptly, which is honestly what would happen with a baby and Michael. And
we learned he
so
holds babies all the time, you know.
Yeah, it's true. So that's the great beginning. That is definitely not terrible foreshadowing for any babies that Michael will have in the future.
And we also learned that Michael's related to this baby through delusion. Was a great. Was it? Or Jan's having a baby with a sperm donor. Michael's having a watermelon with Dwight. And how are they connected? Through delusion. Something like that.
So the party planning committee is throwing Jan's baby shower, which is awkward. I mean, I guess it's by Michael's suggestion, right? I can't imagine Jan wanted this to be done. But Michael's rationale is that Phyllis received her wedding shower, right? Her bridal shower at the office. So Michael wants his golden shower.
So bad.
Yeah. So, and they're prepping all this stuff. They're collecting money for some cake, and some people are kind of, fighting it a bit. They're like, it's not even Michael's baby. They're not related at all. Like, why are we putting up any money at all? Oscar deems it pointless. Angela's setting up a Guess Who's baby game.
That was pretty funny.
That's a really great bit, right? Yeah. Because then we get to see Angela as a baby. And that's a tough picture. It's a tough looking baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love how, like, it's just, because Stanley's the only black guy. It's just like the black baby.
I know. Yeah. It's
now,
like,
did they use
that.
actual baby pictures?
I believe that is correct. Yes.
Because, I mean, they do kind of look like,
yeah.
And we also learned that there's Astrid if it's a girl and Chevy if it's a boy.
Yep, good old Astrid.
Now, I'm not entirely sure how this works, but don't you know the sex when you get artificial insemination?
Well,
no, because they tend to use a lot just to hope to God one of them sticks.
Yeah, they just dump a bunch of seed inside of a vagina, is my understanding. And they just shoot it right up there. And like you said, there's quite a few duking it out for the old one egg apartment. And right, and I guess theoretically, once they're trying to check if the actual conception has occurred, but they have to wait a bit before they know the gender, I believe. Because then they're looking for, I think they look for genitals or what have you. I don't really know that part either. Obviously, you and I, not parents.
Right.
Don't really know. And I guess presumably Jan wanted it to be a secret, so maybe she asked them not to, or she already knew and she lied to Michael. She's like, yeah, you can name the boy because I know I'm having a daughter.
That's sort of the feeling I get, that like she knew at some point and just didn't tell Michael.
Right.
For the love of God, people out there, give your kids normal-ish names.
Yeah, like Jason Lee, whose kid is named Autopilot Inspector. Or Gwyneth Paltrow, who named her kid Apple. Or Kim Kardashian, who named her daughter North. Great names.
I remember reading something that's like every year, like 100 children in the U.S. are named ESPN.
Oh.
They generally pronounce it Espen. But yeah, that's a thing.
That's tough. Well, and like it's always funny too to like see what's like popular in culture, right? Because for a hot stretch, Hermione was the name.
Right.
Katniss was the name for a bit, and there was something else recently that was just going around. But I mean, and obviously it's the ladies' names who is what sticks out because women have the more interesting names, I guess. Dudes are always just named John or something stupid, right?
Right.
Bella, I guess, from Twilight, I think was also a popular name for her.
Well, now Jacob and Edward were big for a while.
Oh, yeah, those went, yeah, and it's just, it's tough. Yeah, so name your kid something normal, like a water bottle.
All right, so I pulled up just a list of, so we got your worst names of 2016. Meldor.
Ooh. That's rough.
Oh, poor kids. Just don't do something that's going to get them beat up in the schoolyard.
Yeah, I mean, because at least if it's like Hermione or Katniss, there's probably at least another 2 or 3 kids in that class that have the same name, so it's okay. But
right.
Meldor.
Let's see. Beberly. Beberly. Come on, guys.
That's tough. Beberly.
Danger. Yeah, that was a name.
Makes sense.
Now, if you made someone's middle name Danger, you might be able to get away with that. Like, yeah, There's
not so
some
great for
poor
our first
child
name.
was named Little Sweetmeat.
Huh. That sounds like it's asking for trouble. You shouldn't have the word meat in your name. That should be a rule. That should be a law.
Unless like your last name is Butcher, that's as close to as meat related as you can
yeah,
get.
that's almost okay. So Stanley has a really great bit here where he doesn't really get the fuss around pregnant women. It says that he hates it because he also suffers from their problems such as swollen ankles, constant hunger, varicose veins, and nipple chafing.
And you need to know the fastest way to the hospital.
That's right. Let's see. So Jim and Pam are trying to figure out ways to communicate with each other. This is the Bluetooth, right?
No, this is not the Bluetooth. No.
Oh, right. It's because they keep missing each other. That's
right,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's sad, but it's like a nice moment in that relationship where, like, you know, it's just off, you know, and it just shows the difficulties of long-term relationships like that. And, you know, kind of, this is an appropriate difficulty to give to this fairy tale couple.
Right.
Right. There are issues that they come later on which are too tough for me to discuss. I may leave the show before we get there because it is how dare they?
How dare they?
How dare they?
So, like I said earlier, we learned that Michael loves babies.
Yeah.
And so there's this montage of him holding these different women's babies, and they all seem to be very happy about it. I don't know many women who would just randomly give a baby to a stranger.
Well, I bet you that he has a pretty good demeanor about, like, coming up, you know? He's like, oh, you know, your baby's very cute. I mean, if we recall the way he treated Hannah's baby, he said, may I? And she said, yes. And he crawls under her desk and does the look who's talking now bit. He's like, hey, Ma, you know what I could use? Milk. Which does not seem to be what he's doing with these women out in public. So that's a step up.
Right. So and we learned that they all pulled their money and got her a stroller.
Yes.
But she already has a stroller. That's $1,200.
The Orbit stroller.
Where did she get the money for this? Does she have a job again?
Yeah, well, I always wondered. Well, she got fired, so she would get severance. I mean, and she says Candles, was it Serenity by Jan, was doing well after that girl went missing. But not that well, right?
Right. And yeah, that's as much as Dwight's bomb shelter.
Yeah.
Which, well, I mean, unless it's like the sort of like a tornado shelter, there's no way you could build a bomb shelter for $1,200. There's just no way. It's
Well,
like
Jacob, you're not a shrew.
the cement, maybe, but the cement alone would be a couple $1,000s.
That's fair.
I don't know. I think this is when we like just more proof that Jan is just batshit.
Yeah.
She's singing "Son of a Preacher Man," which again is a very dirty song.
Well, true. But let me just stop you. Just to point out, when she shows up, she has the baby.
Right.
This is the big joke of the episode, right? She's got the baby, and everybody's there like in the baby shower mode, like trying to figure out what the kid's name is going to be. She's got it, already named it Astrid, in a $1,200 stroller. Baby's there, and right, Jan starts singing this terrible, terrible song
for 20 minutes.
So long. It's so awkward. And that is really her singing too. The Wikia here says they used her real life talents in singing. I think she's fine. I also wondered if she was intentionally off at moments for humor, or is she not a very good singer?
I mean, even when they use her in Threat Level Midnight, she's not that good of a singer.
Yeah, it's not that great, right?
Right. Like, I always just thought it was her, but I also thought it was her. I just think she's a bad singer.
Yeah, that's fair. So Dwight decides to test this Orbit stroller around, yeah?
It better be indestructible for $1,200.
So he does what he calls the bumper test, essentially tying putting a watermelon inside, presumably a different watermelon than one that Michael was eating.
Right.
Puts in the stroller, ties it to his car. Well, first he like throws it a bunch of places, right? He pushes it into a fence, throws it off of like 2-3 foot rocks. But then he ends up tying it to his car and like backing into it, driving off quickly, dragging it around, no longer on the wheels. And from what I could tell, the watermelon stays intact the whole time.
Right.
So,
It's supposed to be a great stroller.
great stroller.
I wonder
Yeah.
if it's a real stroller.
I'm sure something like that exists. Safe to say, though, by the time Dwight's tests are done, he probably wrecked that stroller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking about that. Like, holy hell, what did he do to like what was Jan's reaction to that?
Right. Yeah, unfortunately, we never see because he's already put it like in her trunk. Yeah, but that thing's gotta be wrecked. Jan falls asleep for a hot minute, and like so the baby's kind of like doing some adventuring around the office. Angela has it set up in a very creepy photo shoot where it's sitting in a bed.
Yeah, like what is well, one, that's a really bizarre thing to do. Like you gotta have some balls to like do that with someone else's child.
Well, we know she loves those types of photos, right?
Right.
It's kind of her thing. Yeah, I mean, if she just feels like that's just the way babies should always be photographed, maybe it's... I mean, she's a weirdo. What can I say?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it does take some balls, and obviously Andy doesn't really have a say in the matter, right? He just has to do what Angela says. So.
Right. Yeah, it's a real stroller.
Is it?
Mhm.
Is it called that?
Yeah.
Or-
yeah, if you look
no.
at it, it looks exactly like what you had. And it's $1,000-$1,200 depending on the one you get. So yeah, that's actually pretty accurate.
Wow. All right, well, if you don't want Dwight Schrute to run over your baby, put it in one of these strollers. That's the only advice I could ever give anybody, because Dwight will probably run over your baby. Let's see here. So Michael ends up downstairs in the warehouse, has a bit of a heart-to-heart with Daryl, talking about baby daddies.
Right.
And how basically he holds Astrid and he doesn't really feel connected to it. And how does Daryl get around being a baby daddy? And Daryl's like, please stop calling yourself a baby daddy. You are not that kid's daddy. It's not your baby. All that kind of stuff. You know, I don't really know what he gains from it specifically, but it seems to be a helpful conversation for him to have.
Right.
And then Jan starts to make her way out. You know, Astrid is now in the cheaper stroller that everybody purchased, with the very expensive destroyed stroller in her trunk. Yeah, and then they head out. Oh, so we didn't talk about this at all, but so obviously Michael has this thing for Holly.
Right.
And makes a comment early on that he will be mean to her so as to not make Jan feel jealous or whatever.
Right. And he's going to be doing the same thing with Ryan.
That's right. The attractive people in the office.
So we assume that because of the way Michael's acting, Jan understands what's going on. So part of it is, you know, like Jan obviously has a problem with Holly from the get-go, right? She's kind of mean to her. Then she asked Michael not to date Holly at the end of the episode. So my question here is, like, what is this really weird attachment fixation that Jan has with Michael? Like, is it like, does she just want the ability to always have him around, or is it like, is there some actual like feelings there? What's going on?
Yeah, I never thought about it until you just phrased it that way, but that makes sense, is that she's keeping him as like a backup, you know, in case, you know, raising the kid by herself kind of becomes too much. Michael obviously wanted to have a kid. It's like an easy guy to trick in that situation, you know? Excuse me. But that's got to be it. Because I don't think there's any real feelings for Michael at that point, because even like the later times that we see her, like, There's no remorse. They never ever try to get back together again. Yeah, so that's what I gotta imagine is she's just looking for like a backup baby daddy.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. It's just weird, you know.
Yeah, no, it is an odd thing. But we don't really see Jan in a lot of relationships, and presumably her relationship with her husband was pretty normal.
Right.
So every time we see her do something weird with Michael, it's always like the first time. So it's hard to like pinpoint it until it plays out. But that backup kind of thing going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's just such an interesting thing. This is the last time we really don't see Jan again after this. Like she pops up and like here and there, like the season 7 and season 9, but beyond that, this is pretty much her being done with the show.
Yeah, she doesn't really like leave any more story impacted moments, and the baby's now born out of Michael's life. Comes up again briefly when Michael thinks he has herpes, and then again when she bangs Dwight Jr. But yeah, generally doesn't really leave much of an impact on the show anymore.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's like I think she comes up a few times, but not like whatever.
Yeah. So Michael not runs, but he briskly walks to Holly's office, and he's had a rough day. And Jan says the thing, "Don't date Holly," and that just kind of solidifies Michael's desire to already date her.
Right.
So and they have a really awkward hug.
But it's like she's so happy.
Well, and they're both really happy. I think out of context, though, it's a hard scene to sell. Right. But they're really banking on us knowing the gang for 4+ years at this point. And to just understand that that's how Michael shows affection.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But it's really weird.
It is really weird.
I guess it'd be more salty if he like tried to kiss her, right?
Right. And he's just like, "Do you want to date?" She's like, "Yeah."
Yeah. And then the episode ends with that Jim Pam call, but yeah.
Right, which is really sweet, It's like, aw, y'all think alike. Y'all are the same person already.
It's terrible.
Something that's crazy is like Holly leaves, like she gets transferred into episodes.
Yes.
Crime Aid happens, and then employee transfer happens. It's like, what's it called? Why?
Yeah, I mean, I think Amy Ryan was already on The Wire, and she had been in Gone Baby Gone, I think, already at this point, too. So she was kind of like a more respected, bigger name-ish. I mean, she's no household name, but, she's like a sought-after actress, so I suppose that her contract with the show was like a lot less. But I do wonder, like, if having written all this stuff, if they knew that she was going to end up with Michael when Michael leaves, I'm sure they were hoping.
Right.
Because she is, I mean, she really is the one that Michael needed to be with at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
More so than Jan and Carol and
right. Her leaving did like prompt some stuff, like there's definitely it creates these diverging plot points that get hit throughout the series,
Right.
Like a business trip, and there's a bunch of stuff going on. So
the herpes stuff. Lecture
circuit, right. I'm just thinking like even stuff just like not I think it really helps inform the character, because especially I think it's next season when Michael starts dating the married woman.
Yeah, the bar owner.
Yeah, it definitely has a very like you can tell he hit that just like screw this mode where he didn't care anymore.
Right.
And I think this is really part of it.
But right, exactly. All of his standards are just lower.
Well, it's not. He just doesn't care. It's like, nope, screw you guys, I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, and he said it before on the show too, before Holly showed up. But like, he goes back into that. I'm looking for hot affair, not companionship.
Right.
Holly was the companion. Wants nothing like Holly ever again. After that, yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what do you think? What would you give this episode here?
Again, okay. It's just okay. 2.8 out of 5. Nature's Bounty.
All right. I made it a 3-peat, and I gave it a 3 out of 5 ass turds. Yeah, again, another fine episode. Doesn't really do a lot for the long run stuff except for those moments where like Michael and Holly actually end up dating or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good start to the season. Like this season really picks up in the back half. That's just with like Michael Scott Paper Company and that kind of stuff.
Right. Almost too much, I gotta say. I mean, we'll get there, but I think the Michael Scott stuff is like too short. I think it deserved to be flushed out a little bit more.
Right. I mean, it's 1, 2,
It's like 3 or 4 episodes, right?
4 episodes, 5. Yeah.
The Charles Minor stuff also is like an interesting thing, but like the context in which he's there is hard because he's in the office.
Right.
And it like expedites all that stuff so much, as opposed to him like replacing David Wallace and then like now this difficult guy up at corporate, basically what Jan was,
Right. It's the same position.
But yeah, so I feel like some of that stuff could have been fleshed out more, and maybe other things could have been slowed down a bit. But the way that a lot of these shows work too is they never really know what is going to be their last season until partway through,
Right.
So it's tough, but you're right. There's a lot goes on, and then we get another big Jim Pam announcement at the end of it. So
Right. Yep. Alrighty. So next time we will cover Crime Aid, employee transfer, customer survey, and business trip. You can find us at brokenjars.xyz, at Broken Jars Pod on Twitter. You can find a post for this episode on the r/Dunder Mifflin Reddit, Patreon Broken Jar, or patreon.com/Broken Jars, Broken Jars Broadcasting at gmail.com if you want to email us. Yeah. So
type in Broken Jars in broadcasting or podcasting, and you will find us somewhere.
Actually, I think we're the first listing on Google for Broken Jars. Yep, we are. We are the first listing on Google for Broken Jars.
Yeah, I imagine Google Shopping is not full of Broken Jars items, so you're probably good to go. Yep, there it is. Broken Jars, high quality podcasts.
It's interesting that High Fantasy is the number 2. Again, you can find me on High Fantasy.
You can find me at Dangerous to Go Alone.
Right. We're some of the multi-podcasters.
And I think both of those shows are bi-weekly on the off weeks of Great Scott also. So
right.
You'll listen to Great Scott this week. Next week, you can check out High Fantasy and Dangerous to Go Alone, and then join us back again for another Great Scott.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Bye.